And just like that, we're back. Peace, love, and blessings, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the STEM Files, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture. On tonight's episode, An Athlete's Decision to Engage in Science, we chat with Kayla Miller, a social impact entrepreneur with a background in biomolecular science. We have a great show in store for you. Tune in for more after this, family. Awesome, awesome. Again, family, welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of the STEM Files, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Yes, for those who follow the show, I am back after a much needed vacation. Your boy, your bro, your servant, your friend, Jabril Muhammad, aka Brilliant Engineer, back at it again with a background currently working in naval ship fluid systems, focused on uh, naval ship fluid system with a background in material science and engineering, typically joined by my illustrious co-host, Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq Cardiac. He is a biomedical research scientist with a background in cardiovascular pathobiology, which is the study of how diseases form in the heart and other blood vessels. Family, I am so excited to be back on the platform, excited to not talk so much, but be able to be able to have a wonderful show as always. Like we always say, family, the show isn't about us, but who we bring on. Make sure you have your pens, pads, tablets, phones out. Get your questions ready. Like, comment, and share. Without further ado, I want to present the summit, introduce the others. Kayla Miller. Miller, how you doing, Queen?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, as you can see. I jumbled up a couple of words in there, but I'm getting I'm getting my mojo back. We're all good. Awesome, awesome. So why don't you start off? Just tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about your background, and then we'll just go from there.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Miller. I'm the founder and CEO of an organization called STEM Kings and Queens. We create science, technology, engineering, math, and entrepreneurship educational enrichment workshops for K through 12 students with a focus on real world applications and a focus on the contributions of historically underrepresented people in those fields. And I have a background in biomolecular sciences.
Awesome, awesome. See, you could tell a STEM person because they're very succinct. They gave me everything just now in a nice, pretty package. You even put a bow on it for me. Awesome. So we're gonna get right into it. Talk to us about your background, biomolecular science, right? Here at the STEM Files, we like to unpack terms. We have everyone from the STEM enthusiasts to teachers, parents, students, professionals, etc. So, what is biomolecular science? Why is it important, and why was it necessary for you to go to school to study that?
Okay, so biomolecular sciences, it sounds super fancy, and every time I like tell anyone about it, they're like, what is that? So the short answer of what it is just like a very in-depth study of like cells, molecular biology, genetics, and physiology. And you said, why was it important? Or what was the
And
next
what
question?
makes it important, and why did you decide to go and study it?
So it's important, especially for like health sciences. Like you can go into research, you can go into medicine, things like that. And I chose that path because honestly, it's kind of hard to explain because when I was younger, I was better at like social studies,
Mm,
English, all those things, but
right.
I was more interested in like biology. It was more interesting to me, and I thought I could do that as a career, and I wouldn't get bored. So that's kind of
Mm.
why I chose that path. And also, I wanted to help people. So I figured that route would probably be the best way that I can help people.
Absolutely. I want to unpack that for a minute because you said a few key things there. You talked about being good at something versus being interested in something else, right? You talked about wanting to help people. A lot of times, people the going thought is I'm gonna do what I'm good at. If I'm really good at it, passionate about it, it's my calling, right? You found that social studies and English was something that you were better at, but there was some sneaking interest, right? Something that would continue to pique your curiosity in the sciences, and then you decided to, you know, proceed to go in that route. And that's just a lesson I wanted to like extend to the audience because a lot of times we think that just because we are good at something, that's what we have to do, but we don't
Mhm.
necessarily challenge ourselves with something that we may like, but that it doesn't come to us as readily or as easily. So make sure that we are challenging ourselves and make sure that we are doing that which is not only challenging to us, but impactful to others as well. So I definitely am glad that you said that. And, continuing to go forward on that, can you talk a bit about, you know, your road to, you know, graduating with that background, right? What was your coursework looking like? What are some of the skill sets or the courses that you would recommend that students make sure that they're top notch in, and then how did that look in college from the types of things you study?
Okay, so I would say students that are in high school now, you definitely want to be in like a physics class, a math class, math, especially like calc. You're gonna need that, and also just entry level math because that's like a weed out course, which I didn't realize until like much
Yes,
later
yes.
on. You need math because you're gonna have to take a few math courses to be able to get through like your coursework. So in college, also I recommend taking a chem class. See that as early as humanly possible.
Yes.
In college, I took like literally every chem except for inorganic. So I took like analytical chemistry, organic chemistry, just gen chem, biochemistry, and then I was taking physics. I took genomics. I took pharmacogenomics, math. I took calc classes. Like every type of science related class, I'm pretty sure I took it.
Hmm. And that's dope. Woo, as you were talking, my mind went to undergrad, and I was like, whoo, gotta come
Exactly.
back, because I
Imagine
took
living it.
I
It was
took
crazy.
everything from Calc 1. I took to all the way to differential equations of Calc 4, right? So
Oh
I
wow.
just felt like my life was mad. And the thing is, it's so crazy because not even every engineering student from the other disciplines had to take all four levels of calculus. I think
Really?
I'm right on that. So like me studying material science, if anybody knows anything about material science, it is both practical and application, but it is very much a research based discipline, or there's a lot of opportunities for that, right? So you're going into things, when you talk about research papers on new materials, different applications for materials, material theory, etc. So, getting those math skills on your belt are so key. So thank you so much for highlighting that, right?
Hmm.
I want to talk to you about that transition, right? As we're moving, as we're looking in, our school, as we are seeing people around us. I know on your website for STEM Kings and Queens, you talked about a lack of diversity, right? What
Hmm.
When we think about diversity, I guess for lack of a better word, what is it and what is it not? A lot of times, people try to paint a picture of diversity, and I think you know where I'm going with this, where it's one dimensional. But then there's
Yeah.
diversity on a number of other levels. So unpack that for us. What did you see in terms of a lack of diversity, and what does diversity mean for you as you've grown in that definition?
Okay, so diversity definitely, where do I start? So when I was looking around my college classes, I'm looking around, I'm like, there's no one in here that looks like me. So my automatic question as a scientist is like, why? So I didn't really have time to like unpack the why while I was in college because I just had so much going on. But once I graduated, I was like, okay, let me do a little research. And then I found out, I think I went to, I think the education statistics website. I'm forgetting what the
Mm,
full name is, but it's like a government website. And then I'm like,
right.
looking, and specifically like Black people are getting STEM degrees at a rate of like 8% every year in comparison to like the total 100%. So I was like, why is it that low, and why hasn't it changed year after year after year? So I'm like, okay. And it wasn't just Black people, it's like 70% white, and then it's like 30% like people of color. And so
Mm,
that just didn't make sense to me. It's like everyone needs to be in the room when it comes to STEM conversations, because that's the way the world's heading. Like, we're not going to be able to escape tech. We're not going to be able to escape like any of these topics. So everyone needs to be in the room to make sure everyone is like accounted for. So yeah, that was kind of the thing. And I was trying to figure out, okay, is it a thing of access, or is it a thing of like they just don't know it's an option for them? So I was thinking back on my own journey, and I didn't have any like STEM mentors that looked like me
mm,
growing up at
mm.
all. The only person that I knew of that was in STEM from K through 12 was George Washington Carver. That was it. Like, I didn't know about Katherine Johnson until I hit like college. I didn't know about any of them. And yeah, so history is a big thing because it's not going to be taught to you in schools here. Um, no, seeing people that look like you currently doing it is important as well. And also just having the access to like STEM enrichment in general is pretty expensive. It's not like an easy thing to do if you're like if you're living in a district that isn't funded as much as other districts, you know? So,
You just said it. You said, is it an access issue? It's a everything issue, right? You talk about
yeah.
access. You talk about representation. You talk about policy and practice. You talk about, you know, um, neighborhood to neighborhood, or the social aspect of things, right? A lot of I went to University of Pennsylvania, right? So if anybody who is familiar, that's an Ivy League institution, so you could probably guess at the percentage of black people or non-white, for non-white people, right? So one of the
Mhm.
things for me, what it never really bothered me. I grew up with a strong knowledge of self. You know, my people relative to others and our place in the world. So I never used the term minority for myself. I said, how
Mhm.
am I a minority when around the world people who look like me are the majority? So that doesn't make sense. So whether I go to this job or this institution, that's a microcosm of the macrocosm. So I'm not going to base my existence and my parameters, if you will, or numbers on something that's a microcosm when the
Mhm.
macrocosm belongs to me. So those are the things that I thought about. But then, like you're saying, when you don't have that and you are going through life wanting to see yourself in the picture, and then in a school district where not only do you not see yourself in the picture, but you don't even have up-to-date books or knowledge base, and then your friend group may or may not be interested in learning or whatever, or it's a disruptive environment or not conducive for these things start to pile up, and then it perpetuates, right? So I
Exactly.
think where organizations like STEM Kings and Queens come in, we're gonna just segue right into it. We're gonna get right into it. You start to put a wedge, and you start to kind of put a wedge in the system and create a new one. Not reform that system, but put a wedge in it, siphon off some of that talent and create a new system, right? So,
Mhm.
I love that we are starting to unpack diversity, because you have diversity of, ethnicity, right? But you also have a diversity of ideas, background, experiences, right? Some people think, oh, well, you know, I'm just going to get a white, black, Asian, whatever person. Okay, that's a start. And
Mhm.
there is some level of diversity and experience just on the basis of ethnicity. But we want to also make sure that we don't assume all black people are a monolith, all Asians are a monolith, all white people are a
Mhm.
monolith. People have very distinct experiences that they've had throughout life. So thank you so much for that. So let's get into STEM Kings and Queens, right? I love how you talk about access, you talk about representation, and then you do very innovative things. So talk about some of the workshops that you all have held and why workshops are so important to what it is that you do.
Yeah, so workshops are like that first point of access. Maybe a student hasn't ever seen STEM or seen themselves in a STEM context. So one of the workshops that we did was a gel electrophoresis workshop, which is it's pretty advanced for a lot of kids, but then I tied it into social justice in a way. So there's
Mm,
this technology that exists. And because this technology has gotten so good in the past 20 years, just DNA technology in general, we're able to exonerate people from prison, right? Like that's a
mm,
deal off just DNA technology. So
right.
let's get into that. Let's talk about that. But also having workshops where it's just like, I don't want to call it like traumavation. That's kind of how I frame that. Like,
Mm,
I feel like there's a lot of people of color that get into STEM because they're trying to solve problems that we didn't cause. So that's kind of like traumavation, but I also want to create the space for innovation for kids to use their full creativity just because, not because they're trying to like fix a problem. You know what I mean? So that was one of them. And then also just having people, different people from the community in different STEM fields come and talk to the kids. Like we had a gentleman that is in the National Inventors Hall of Fame come and talk to him, or come and talk to our students. And he's kind of like the authority on lasers. So that was great.
wow.
Different people. We had a scientist from Regeneron come in and talk to our students. So just getting different people to come in and so our students can see themselves.
Mm. You know, you said something very profound. I've never heard the term traumavation, and you talked about basically being able to allow students to swim in the ocean of STEM for the sake of getting their bodies and feet wet versus swimming in the ocean of STEM to try to save someone who's drowning for something that they didn't do. You know, it's like
Yeah.
okay, there's that there's that understanding that okay, there are issues and problems, and it's like okay, I feel like I'm duty bound to solve that problem, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I also can do
Mhm.
science for science's sake, you know. And there is something to traumavation, not that you should continue to engage or unearth trauma, but sometimes unless you understand or know what's at the root of personal pain, social pain, etc., you're not going to be able to move forward in the most fruitful of manners. For
Mhm.
example, we as a people, you know, understand our sojourn here in America, right? We as black people. And you would do a disservice to yourself, your family, your children by not giving them a thorough understanding of that history. Why?
I totally
Because
agree.
they will begin to think that just because you see at a table someone black, white, Asian, man, woman, etc., sitting there, that everything is all right when there are still things being fought for to this day. You see what I'm saying? And there are things that have not been thoroughly uh, absolved or corrected since that sojourn. So understanding, and then when you understand your history, you're less doomed to repeat it, right?
Exactly.
So you
Mhm.
have to continue to do that. So that trauma evasion, that giving them that social or that practical understanding that relates to them in particular. I love that aspect of what you all do, and I think you should definitely keep doing that. Um, so one of the things that I think is a very much what's what I'm looking for underrated skill is how to create and deliver a worthwhile workshop.
Mhm.
Now, because I'm telling you, I've been in things that are less workshop, more lecture. Not that the lecture wasn't good, but it wasn't a workshop. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
it wasn't hands
talk
on. Mhm.
about talk about the art of the workshop from your perspective and your experience. What makes a good workshop? What makes a bad workshop? And how can one start kind of engaging STEM workshops as a beginner?
Okay, so number one thing, it has to be fun. Like you
Mm,
have to make STEM fun. And it is. Honestly, it's a creative discipline, you know? But what I find is that we're competing with a generation of students who like grew up on technology. So we
come
can't
on.
just talk. We can't just talk
Woo!
at them. They're gonna get bored. They're not going to be interested, and we have to meet them where they're at. So also they might not have an interest in STEM or might not have ever been like exposed to STEM in any way, shape, or form. So they don't necessarily know what this is. So like meeting them where they're at with like good analogies that are relatable. For example, what did I do? I compared like coronavirus to like a restaurant, and just like everyone knows how a restaurant works, and like I made an analogy like that. And then I've also talked about genetic, like not recombination, but what's the word I'm looking for? Just editing like DNA and different things. And I
Mm,
compared that to Transformers for like elementary school kids, and they immediately just like perked up, were interested, wanted to know more about it. So just like comparing little things and getting creative with it, I think is so important. And then it brings it down to a level where they're going to understand it, and it's not going to be like all of this crazy vocabulary thrown at them at once, because that can shut people down really quick. So definitely make it fun, make it so don't put so much information in it that they're going to just like freeze and like not retain anything, but just like work your way into it slowly and make it fun. It's probably my best advice.
absolutely.
Hmm.
So now I have another question, right? Because I am in complete agreement, right? Particularly when you're dealing with that K through maybe fifth or so, grade age range, right? Because, like you said, teachers now, man, I salute. My mother's a teacher by trade. I was homeschooled for nearly a decade. My brother as well.
Oh, okay.
My mother wasn't back like back then. I'm 27 years old now. Teachers got to be on TikTok,
Right.
Instagram. They got to have all the handshakes when you come into the classroom. You
Exactly.
got to
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying. You got to be fresh. You got to
You
have
literally
you
have to be
sneak. You got to be a
entertainer.
superhero as a teacher today.
Right.
You got to be so interesting. You know what I'm saying? You got to literally be
Mhm.
an influencer as a teacher today. So I wanted to say though, how does that mentality shift or rather evolve as you go sixth grade and up? Right now, yes, we're still keeping it fun, but we're trying to make sure that very core and somewhat advanced principles are retained. Sixth, seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, on up to right before pre-college. So how does that mentality shift? What are some of the different thought processes that happen or occur when designing that type of workshop?
Well, definitely real world applications. Like they need to know like where things are being applied. So like for example, in New York State, you have to take all these like state tests in high school and stuff. And we had to take like an earth science test or whatever, because basically schools get funded to have these tests and you just have to take them. But our teachers are so focused on the tests that they don't really teach anything outside of that. So I never like I enjoyed school, but
Right.
not to the full extent of understanding where I'm gonna use any of this. Like I enjoy learning, but school was kind of like eh. So I definitely think putting them in positions where they're gonna be out in the field and just learning different stuff, like from people that are actually doing different jobs, because most people don't know like where you can apply STEM. So making it focused on that type of thing is more important as you like age up and you have a better context of the information that you're learning.
So would you say, so basically what we're saying is, and everyone listen to this, write this down. Practical application is
Mhm.
key from the cradle dang near to the grave, right? If we don't see not only okay, science is cool, but now how where does it apply in my everyday life, right? And because that's power, right? My ability to then have a change in energy, go from this potential energy that I'm looking at, right? And then it becomes kinetic because I'm able to kind of work it out in real life. That's the very beauty of science, to be able to take a principle, take a theory, take a concept, and then see it manifest in life. Then not only manifest, but manifest it for your benefit and society's benefit to then move things forward in a very conservative way. When I say conservative, meaning that it's not destructive. Because we
Mhm.
know there's been a lot of science used to, basically place the world in imbalance, for lack of a better word. So thank you so much.
Mhm.
Practical application, everybody. So if you're, a parent, you homeschool your children. If you're a tutor, if you're a teacher, right, a professor, and you're watching tonight, and you're doing workshops, we're in this COVID environment, right, this virtual environment, understand, okay, what are the concepts you're trying to teach? What are the attention spans like of your students? What are some of their interests? Are we engaging our students, personally at times? What I'm saying? We're still teacher student, right? But we got to get some of their likes so then we can really elevate them in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So,
Yeah.
absolutely, practical application is so key. So,
Yeah. And just to actually add
I'm
on
sorry.
that,
Go ahead. Hmm.
because think about like middle school girls. Okay, what are they interested in right now? They might be interested in makeup. Okay, they're also learning about chemistry, cosmetic chemistry. I bet you there's a STEM thing for everything that they're interested in right now. Maybe middle school boys, they're interested in video games.
Right.
Okay, someone has to make that video game for you to be able to play it. There's code involved. There's all of those different things. So it's not that hard to just relate it to something that's actually happening that they're already interested in, you know?
Mhm. Absolutely. Marquet Johnson says access and representation is so important. It is amazing that this program is available to children of color. Thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We're trying to make sure that as many black and brown children, and obviously everyone who is interested in science, technology, engineering, mathematics sees this program, because we really feel that we're doing our best to give quality content that is relevant and, again, practical for your needs. So, right, we're talking about STEM kings and queens. We're talking about, diversity, equity, inclusion. We're talking about the future of these different, you know, areas. When it comes to you creating, right, and founding this organization, talk about a bit of that. A lot of times we'll see people at the during the race, right, after the race, but we don't always see the prep work. We don't see the stretching. We don't see the eating regimen. We don't see the crying. We don't see those the workouts, right? So talk to us about how STEM Kings and Queens came to be, and some of the process that you went through that is applicable to someone else trying to start a business or nonprofit.
Okay, so personally, I think the easiest way to start a business is to start out as a sole proprietor and see if you actually want to like continue going with it, because you don't want to sink a ton of money into it and just test the waters being a sole proprietor, see what you can do. And even if you want to get intellectual property with your business or trademark something, like you could do that too. But honestly, just start. Like don't spend too much time in the R&D phase, because me, even as a scientist, I was like, I had this idea for like over a year and I'm like, do I want to do it? Should I try this? Just do it. Um, so those would be like my top two tips.
Hmm. Just do it, like Nike. That we're gonna segue to something. When you talk about sneakers, you know where we're going. You know where we're going. But just start. And you talking to me. I was just having this conversation. My mother has been on me about starting my mentorship program,
Mhm.
and my thought process. I'm always like, well, it has to be revisited. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm an engineer. I'm system oriented. I see
Yep.
things in steps and stages. Tariq helps me out. He's a biomedical research scientist, but he's a bit more he's a bit more risk oriented. I'm always like, well, what if
Yeah.
this occurs? I'm very much a risk manager. Do we accept this risk? Can we ignore this? Do we have to do this? So, when you talked
Mhm.
about just doing it and just kind of taking the plunge, for lack of a better word, it's necessary because you see what you're made of. And the same way you go into that cold water in the pool, you dip a toe, then you dip an ankle, you might, mess around and, go waist deep, then you pushed in. It's like, after that initial, breath, you realize, oh, this feels good, right? Same thing with
Exactly.
business. As
Mhm.
as you really try yourself and test the fabric of your being, if you have something of value and you are able to market it properly and really try to do good to people and give a quality product or service, it will render you dividends. Um, physically, right, mentally, spiritually, etc. So Yes, you definitely were talking to me when you said that. Absolutely.
And
So,
then you can iterate too. Like once you've
mhm,
seen yourself do something, okay,
absolutely,
how can I make it better? And it's just like a continual cycle.
absolutely, absolutely. A very iterative process,
Hmm.
business building and successes, right? So then, talk to us about building a team, right? I would imagine you don't necessarily do all of this yourself, but if you do, that's dope. But
I actually do. Like,
well, okay. Well, there
yeah,
you
for now.
go. So, and I,
Yeah.
I figured when you said sole proprietorship, I said she probably does all this herself. So,
Yeah.
what about I guess if you as you're thinking about things like expansion, as you're thinking about moving forward, what does team building look like to you for STEM Kings and Queens? What are some of the key positions or areas that you feel like there's room for growth and you would like to see expanded to other individuals?
Honestly, like more facilitators. Like I have a background in biomolecular sciences, but there's like more STEM like occupations. So more people coming in and teaching workshops like through my platform and giving students an opportunity. So just people in different fields. So that would be like the
Mhm.
main thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. So with that, family, we've reached the halfway point of the show. Time is flying. Listen, we've been talking a lot about STEM Kings and Queens. Make sure y'all tap in on social media, right? At STEM Kings and Queens, just like that, at STEM Kings and Queens. Show some love, follow, drop a DM, give some ideas, offer your services. Sis just talked about how she is looking to potentially expand. I don't know how soon, but looking for other facilitators. So if you are someone that you're an engineer, you're a scientist, you're a technician, mathematician, or anything in between, make sure you reach out at STEM Kings and Queens to learn more and just follow the great work that's being done. Right? This is the STEM Files family, the voice of STEM talent in Black culture. I am your brilliant engineer, typically joined by Tariq Cardiac and currently joined by Kayla Miller. We are live right now at the STEM Files on YouTube, the STEM Files on Facebook. You can follow us at the STEM Files on Instagram and Twitter as well for all content that we have going. So, you know, one of the things that I always like to discuss, right, is, you know, the entrepreneurial aspect of things. We're just talking about business. And one of the things that is mentioned in the I guess the mission or bio of the organization is you talk about entrepreneurship and adding that aspect to what it is that you do for the children. Why is that so important? A lot of times I see in as I was young, when they talked about STEM engagement, even now, it's like, engaging children in these workshops to pursue STEM careers. But there's not always that entrepreneurial aspect where, hey, I've engaged you. This is your interest. You're good at this. There's potential to monetize this and build something for yourself. So why was that important to add, and what are some ways that you have presented that to the students that you've had?
Okay, so entrepreneurship is really important in terms of just like building teamwork and understanding that. So that was kind of a reason why I thought that would be good to add. And also, I had just done all my research like post college too. Like previously, I said I didn't have any like STEM mentors that looked like me. So I naturally, after college, just started looking at all the different people in STEM that looked like me. And what I was finding was that most of them had businesses. And that was probably due to necessity because they weren't welcomed into the institutions that STEM had back then. So they had to create their own. So that was one reason. And then another reason is just because I think it builds important life skills. So just working on a
Mm-hmm.
team, learning how to accept failure too, or technically not accept failure, but like deal with it and just like move on, because it's only failure if you accept it. And so for entrepreneurship, you're just gonna like flop all the time. You're gonna flop,
Talk
like
about it.
you're gonna learn different things after you flop, and you're either gonna stop or you're gonna keep going. So I want them to keep going, obviously. And then that's a STEM skill too. It's like in research, you're going to get stuff wrong like 95% of the time, but you're going to keep going anyways. So
Mm,
just building that like resilience muscle was important. So
mm.
that was the idea
Building that
behind that.
resilience muscle. Mm.
Hmm.
And you mentioned something. There's a phrase that it talks about failing forward, right? And then they
Yeah,
say the difference between someone who's successful and someone who isn't is they have failed more than you, meaning they basically tried more, right?
exactly.
Failure is not, oh, I've I'm it's over for me. It's I figured out one more way this doesn't work. Right?
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
have I've worked out, but I've gotten close. I've learned something along the way. I polished a technique. I've made hopefully a little bit more progress. But now, okay, this route doesn't work. But maybe if I combine a bit of this route with some of this route, what I'm saying, I can get to another plateau or the end. We never know. So having and then that resilience muscle, right? We know when we talk about science is so amazing because it's so connecting. So the same way if I'm in the gym, right? One of the outside of the appearance, the very visual aspect of working out, one of the greatest testaments or pieces of proof that you are more fit is your muscular resilience. If I
Hmm.
could do only 15 push-ups straight when I started working out, and now maybe two weeks, 3 weeks later, I can do 25. That means I've increased the muscular resilience. Well, if after one email, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. But now, after 12 emails, maybe a business plan, 7 phone calls, I'm still raring to go. I have built my business resilience. I'm able
Exactly.
to stay in that pocket for longer periods of time doing high quality, high leverage work for the benefit of myself and others who are consuming what it is I'm producing. So thank you again. I feel you keep saying these things, and I'm like, I gotta pull them out because, like, you are definitely, giving great game on this. Um, let's see. So, as people may have seen advertised, right? Our, sister, Kayla Miller, she did a little hooping. You know what I'm saying? She got a little hoop in her. You know what I'm saying? A little jump, maybe a little fadeaway in her. You know what I'm saying? Former, collegiate basketball player. And we want to just talk a little basketball for a minute because there's a lot of science, a lot of high science in basketball. So just tell us a little bit about that, Queen. As we shift gears a little bit. When did you start playing? Uh, when you went to college, I guess how was your collegiate career? Position did you play? Those things like that.
Okay, so I started playing probably before I could even talk. Like I probably just like grew up with a ball in my hand. My dad played basketball in college. My brother played college basketball too. Like a lot of people in my family just played basketball, so that was like one of the things that I did. I started playing organized basketball when I was 5, and so I've been playing basketball for like over 20 years now, which is pretty crazy. Um,
Mm,
so I also played a lot of different sports growing up. So I would do
you're right.
like dance, gymnastics, soccer, softball, baseball, track, volleyball. I played literally like every sport in the book, swimming.
Hmm.
But I was really grateful for that whole entire experience and that my parents like provided for me because I think having a hobby or just doing something like over and over and over again and seeing yourself incrementally get better at things makes it so you don't want to just like quit so easily. And so
Mm,
I built up like a resilience kind of complex really young. And also my parents, if I started something, they wouldn't allow me to quit it like halfway through the season. So I had to like stick everything out.
yep.
And I think that really helped me with like science and stuff too. And so by the time I got to like middle school, high school, I was only playing basketball, volleyball, and running track. And then further into my career, I think like probably my junior and senior year, I only did track and basketball. And then it was kind of just deciding between those two, which I wanted to do. And I picked basketball. And so then I ended up going to Central Connecticut State University and playing for 4 years on their team. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Okay. Okay, okay. So we were a bit of an efficient. We played a lot. We had a very well-rounded thing, and it's so funny when I hear people say that because like when I was younger, I did a little bit of everything before I gravitated more to basketball, right? So I did martial
Mhm.
arts. I danced. I actually danced from my early teenage years through college. Um,
Nice. Cool.
then I played some tennis, played hockey. I ran a little track, right? So, one of the things I think my parents, I'm so glad they did is it was like you're not just gonna be sitting in the house. You know what I'm saying? You
Exactly.
got to do something, and they never
Right.
punished me by taking away things that affected other people. So, for example,
Oh, okay.
if I was messing up at home, I had a little too much lip. I was going to that basketball game. I was because you go and then whether you playing or not, you're gonna cheer for your team. So no, you're not getting out of that. You're not going to violin practice. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And these are necessarily things that I didn't like to do. These is like the understanding that you're not going to. I'm going to take away something that just affects you, right? Discipline
exactly.
you with something that just affects you, not necessarily
Mhm.
affects the team, right? So you're going
Yeah,
to learn how to show up for something even when you're not in the best of moods, even when you're in trouble, right? You're going to learn how to be present for those who need you and rely on you, and then vice versa. So that was definitely a great lesson I think in playing sports, how to overcome difficulty, how to work in a team, right?
hmm
How to you know just under operate in a system, a proven system to see dividends over time. So okay, if I can't shoot, I can get in the gym and shoot 500 to 1,000 jump shots, and before the end of that season, I'm gonna have a heater. Like
exactly.
you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's how you start to work it out. So those are things I definitely think rely or they correlate to science because it's all a system. Science or STEM is based on things being universal principles that are seen readily in everything you do, right? Physics, we love to see the parabolic motion of the basketball. They always use that example in the textbooks, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, as we kind of talk about that, we talked about what leagues we like to watch, and we were talking a bit about college basketball, and NCAA. So just real quickly, what are some of your thoughts on college basketball currently? Did you watch the tournament? Do you have any people you're keeping your eyes on going into the league and forward?
I didn't watch much of the men's tournament. I was just like
Hmm.
flipping through games and nothing really seemed that interesting to me, but the women's tournament was pretty exciting this year. There were a couple
Hmm.
games that were like down the stretch, didn't know who was going to win. Um,
Hmm.
who really impressed me was the girl from Arizona. I think her name's Ari McDonald.
Okay. Okay.
She was really, really short. I never heard of her until the tournament, but she was going off for 30 on like 2 or 3 games. And I was like, who is this girl? And she's like 5'6". And
Hmm.
she was really just going off. So she was exciting to watch. Um, who else as a team kind of impressed me? That girl from UConn is pretty crazy. Paige Becker. She's a
Beckers. I was about to
yeah.
ask you about her. She
God,
she is she kind of different. She's low key different.
really,
Like
yeah.
I feel like if I like it's something I look at like do I want to guard you because she got
Just
she
literally,
she she got a lot of sauce. It's a lot of sauce, a whole lot,
her
a lot a
passing,
lot of
her
a lot in the
passing is
bag.
crazy.
Hmm.
Not everyone can
Absolutely,
pass like she does. Like
that's
she's
true.
making
That's
really
true.
like hard cross court passes that shouldn't even get there look really easy. So
Right.
that was impressive. And just like having that kind of maturity at that young of an age and being on such a big stage and still just like getting it done and making it look easy
Right.
is not it's not an easy thing to do. So she was really impressive to watch the whole season. UConn always has
Absolutely.
like a crazy good team. Um,
Always.
yeah.
But like my last question is in that Baylor game was that a foul?
It absolutely was a foul. It was a foul. Everyone saw it.
Right.
I
Right.
think it's just here's the issue. So the whole entire season, they're calling like ticky-tacky fouls. Like if you poke someone, it's a foul. And then in the
Right.
tournament, they want to let people play. And it's like you've been calling it one way the whole season, and then we get to the tournament and you guys want to switch it up. For what reason? Like it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it was definitely a foul.
Absolutely.
And I don't
Absolutely.
understand why they didn't review it either. It was under 2 minutes. They could have reviewed that play, and that just didn't happen. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that was definitely talked about all over. I said this, when I looked at the still, I said there's a lot of I said the physics on that. There's a lot of skin to skin. I
right.
you
There's a
know,
whole lot of
there's a lot
contact.
of contact on that. I don't know. Well, awesome. So definitely thank you for indulging me on that. I always love to be able to have those conversations. Me and Tariq go back and forth on basketball a lot because I'm a LeBron James fan till I die. He
Yeah.
loves Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, and I give it to him. I'm like, but they're not. There's, there's levels to this. KD is different. Steph is different, but LeBron is king. I'm just look. We can talk
I
about it,
mean,
but
his track record of getting teams to like finals is just like I don't know who else is doing that.
it's a science to it, and he knows the code. He got the code.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he's in his
as
zone,
absolutely.
definitely.
So we're toward the end of the show. This has been great, family. If you have been enjoying the show, make sure to drop some. Let me get some a couple of black fists in the comments. Let me get a couple of black fists in the comments if I can. Make sure you're continuing to like, you're commenting, you're sharing this content. One thing we love to do as we get to the end of the show is role switch. So we allow our guests to kind of play interviewer as opposed to interviewee. And if they have any questions, want to know more about what we do here at the STEM Files, our backgrounds, and even our parent company, Original Man Scientific, or anything else, we open the floor. So as we switch gears, if you have anything and want to engage me as the interviewer, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I kind of have like two. Well, one's a question and one's a statement. So, what was your
Okay.
first experience in STEM, and did you have any like STEM mentors that looked like you growing up?
Whew, first experience in STEM. So I'm sure this isn't the first, but like I told you, I was homeschooled. So I it feels like I was embraced, or like I was able to embrace STEM from when I popped out. Like came
Yeah.
out the womb into STEM. My mother and father did a great job of putting crystal growing kits, model trains, model planes. I was a big Connects fan. I was not Team Legos growing up. I was a hard Team Connects growing up. I just felt like
Mhm.
Legos were kind of boring. It was just like, it's the cubes and you can do some stuff. But Connects, you can
Yeah.
bend this and it's multicolored and then you can connect it over here and you can make three. Like it's different. So I Connects and everything. And then as I went in my sojourn, right, I was interested in, meteorology at one point, which I still
Oh,
am infatuated with weather, but I wanted to be a meteorologist. And then I transitioned to want to be an environmental scientist and engineer. And I went to this camp at Drexel University in my junior year of high school, fell in love with material science. And now, as I've gotten older, went through college, coming in to try to build a business that leverages my scientific know-how, my interpersonal skills, and ability to communicate and be have an infectious attitude, if you will. And it just went from there. So it was definitely very early on while homeschooled. And in terms of direct STEM mentors, you know, I was in a number of different programs. I went to like, camps at the library. So whereas like my actual environment was the, pool. You know, there
okay.
was a uh, fellow, like a brother and mentor of mine. We call him the math doctor in the Nation of Islam. His name is Brother Shah. He had a number of tapes on math that I would watch. As I got older, I had peers, and then now in my job I have some direct mentors that I work with that look like me as well. So I was always around people who were interested in what I was interested in that did look like me. So
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's good that you mentioned that you have mentors now because you're never too old to have a mentor. You can always learn
absolutely.
something new from somebody else. And then my other thing was just like a statement about it's the original man science. Is that what it's called?
Original Man Scientific. Yes. Go ahead.
Scientific. I love what you guys are doing with that because like another issue with like I'm dealing with access when it comes to like the STEM issue and having like more people of color be in STEM. But another thing is like once you get out, okay, I know there's a ton of scientists of color that aren't getting funding for research because the people that are reviewing like who gets research do not look like them. So I think what you guys are doing is really important and I commend you on that.
Thank you so much. And that's literally one of the many things we're striving to do, right? So again, for those who are newcomers to the platform, we are the parent company of this platform. Our media arm to STEM Files is called Original Man Scientific LLC. That is a science and technology company that is geared towards delivering the advantages of research and development to your community, right? So we focus on a multi-pronged approach of education. We had our first and are going to have several invention and innovation workshops. We are empowering the community with what is an invention, what is an innovation, how to go about bring that into existence, and then partnering with them to assist in bringing that to fruition. Right? We have external services such as shipping container solutions. So those things that people see, those container homes, office, and everything, we're able to leverage connections and work with it to deliver that and designs and actual homes to or actual container solutions to you for various applications, mobile app development, product design, manufacturing, etc. Right, and then obviously having the internal side where we're working on several different products ourselves, where you can come to us with an idea. Hey, I want to invent this, or I have an idea for this, and then we work with you, get a questionnaire together, and able to bring you step by step through that process. So we have a number of projects we're working on right now. Very excited to be busy, and like you said, be able to now go to those NESB conferences, go to the Blacks in Government, go to these different places and be a Black owned and operated company offering jobs, offering opportunities to these bright and bushy tailed, swagged out young professionals that we always see at these conferences, but end up having to go to white owned companies, which is, unfortunate because we have the ability to provide that. We just have to have our feet meet up with the idea. So thank you so much for that question. Thank you so much for the statement because it doesn't it we really appreciate when people are able to see what we're trying to do and growing in.
Of course.
So as we are in the last 10 minutes, I want to make another highlight, right? This is a Black business highlight. So the homie, right? Her name Kanisha, aka Klein. She's my wife's best friend. This is a Black woman-owned apparel company called Real and Recognize Real. She has a number of different items from the hoodies that you see, windbreakers, bucket hats, cross strap, bags, book bags, leggings, etc. Up and coming designer and apparel company. Please, please, please make sure to check her out on Instagram. That's going to be at 3R Real R, at the number 3RREALR. She's really dope, and yes, that is actually my wife and I looking at each other in the right picture. So shout out to you, baby. All right, just wanted to make sure I did that. And last but certainly not least, we gotta promote this. This is Black-owned media, everybody. The Final Call newspaper. This is the Nation of Islam's number one tool for the number one program, which is the resurrection of our people and the world through positive, truthful, local, national, and international news. You have health and wellness stories. You have stories on economics, the spiritual aspects of things, etc. So, I'm sorry, going back to that. If you are interested, go to finalcalldigital.com, finalcalldigital.com to get your digital subscription of this great Black-owned and powerful paper. And now we're back here, of course. So we always like to make sure that our guest gives any last minute nuggets, right? We've talked about everything from your business. We talked about conducting a great workshop. We talked about diversity, a little bit of equity, a little bit of inclusion, entrepreneurship, So what would you like us to not only take from this, but any nuggets you'd like to give the audience in general? The floor is yours.
I would say just follow your interests. I feel like a lot of people are in things and doing things that they don't necessarily want to do, but they feel like they have to do that. But make space and make time for your own interests. And also engage in STEM, because that's the way the world is heading. So whether that's on like just seeing what new technology is coming out, just engage with it in some way, shape, or form, and just stay informed, because all of these STEM related things are going to be in our life like inevitably. And just looking at how the past year has gone, it's like technology is really at the forefront. So I would say just keep paying attention.
Absolutely. You talk about new technology. There's everything from graphene to blockchain to
Exactly.
crypto to AI to big data, etc. So there's so many opportunities in STEM that we as a people have to capitalize on, because I am a firm believer that separation is key to be able to have a land of our own where we can think freely and be able to operate at peak efficiency, and then be able to really give the greatness of ourselves to the world, to ourselves first and to the world, and really engage on equal terms, right? It's one thing to go to the greatest heights in the ivory tower, right? And that serves a purpose, right? It shows what can be done. But if you're telling me something as infinite in STEM has such a finite peak, which is to be executive or a top official in somebody's company, then how infinite is STEM? But if you're
Mhm.
telling me that no, the infinity of STEM is you having an idea, applying pressure, seeing that idea come to fruition, and working that idea out for the glory of your God, yourself, your family, your nation, your people, and the world. That's what I think we're talking about, and that's where the beauty of STEM lies.
Mhm. Create your own, definitely. And
Absolutely.
also, if
Create your own.
you're a student and or just have any questions about STEM, just like DM me on STEM Kings and Queens at STEM Kings and Queens on Instagram, or you could go to my website, which is www.skqonlineworkshops.thinkific.com. If you have any questions, reach out to me.
Absolutely. Please do. And please know that this platform is open to you now. So we would love to have you on for a part two as things matriculate, as you move forward, or if you just have something you want to get off your chest and share. Once you are a part of the STEM Files family, you are able to come back. So let us know. I thoroughly enjoyed this show and been able to glean a lot from it, and look forward to seeing that all that you do going forward. And lastly, family, if you like our content, if you like what we're doing and want to see us do it even better, and for more people, support us via Cash App at the STEM Files on Cash App. Also, if you are interested in becoming your own owner in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, you want to visit our website for Original Man Scientific at www.scienceByOMS.com. That's www.scienceByOMS.com. And with that, this has been another edition of the STEM Files, where we highlight the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics as the voice of science and STEM culture, in Black culture. I am your brilliant engineer, typically joined by Tariq Cardiac. We have the lovely Kayla Miller on with us. Without further ado, that's it, family. Peace, love, and may God continue to bless us all.